is difficult to finance to get because the fees up front are so expensive. Even though it's against the loan, it's still very expensive. So, but I may have an alternative myself. And if that's the case, I may be able to put people that he can't get into that and make sure he's compensated.
Well, the whole reason for our meetings is to refer people. That's the whole purpose and I talked about it in the meeting this morning that uh, we have software, the referral software, and what's good about it is we submit it to Google, and that you get found on the search engine as a result of that. So what we do is like the meetings that we did this morning, we submitted it to Google, YouTube, and I don't know if you know this, but YouTube is the second most trafficked site on the entire internet.
Yeah, YouTube became everyone thought Google overpaid for YouTube, and now it really was a bargain basement price. Same thing with LinkedIn for Microsoft. I think LinkedIn is worse off since Microsoft took it over. But in terms of what they paid at the time, everyone thought they overpaid, and now by comparison, it's like it was peanuts.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting. Um, and I was talking about it this morning, how technology is making us evolve. And I love technology. I just love it because it's changing our world, a whole new world. So here's a great example. You want to uh, you want to build your business, right?
Mhm.
As it stands, you're a very regional business. I was asking Karen just the other day. I joined this. Oh, Dennis is here. Great. Here we go. Dennis, are you on?
I'm here. I'm here finally.
Hey, there we go.
Hey.
Um, Dennis, meet Moshe Math.
Hi.
He also attends another meeting that I have. Oh, you attend two other meetings, right? You attend the one on Thursday
Yes.
and the 8 a.m. on Friday, right?
Well, 8 a.m. your time, but I'm on the East Coast, so it's 11 o'clock.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And I also attend the Wednesday one that Breck does that he has like twice a month for on the
that one.
pharmacy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Very interesting. So why don't you two
Well,
introduce each other?
let me start, Dennis, by thanking you for your service. Because I'm
Oh,
guessing if you're
absolutely.
on here, you're a veteran.
I am.
I
I
am
am.
not, but thank you very much. My dad served during Korea, but I'm
Okay.
not a veteran.
Well, tell me a little bit more about yourself then.
I was about to ask you because I have a feeling you're a little bit older than I am. So let me start with you if you don't mind.
Oh,
I
sure. Not a
respect.
problem. Well, I come from a Navy family. My father was in the Navy 1950 to 1970. So he served during the Korean conflict, but he was offshore and was on a ship at sea. He was a machinist mate, so he served both during Korea and Vietnam, but never really was in any risk or danger for him. I wanted to join the Navy based upon that, but the Navy said I could be a Marine because I have slightly defective color vision, so that was not at the time what I really wanted. My father had suggested that because I had great grades in high school, that I should try to become an officer because that would be a better life for me. So I did, and both the Navy and the Army offered me scholarships, but through ROTC. Um, but of course, the Navy had the caveat that I had to take the Marine option, and so the Army came through and said, we don't care about that. So that's the route I went. I have a pretty non-traditional career. I was a medical service corps officer and served active duty, served some time as a drilling reservist, came back and was back on regular active duty, was passed over for promotion to major for just some, it was just the time they were trying to downsize the force. But I was working for the Office of the Surgeon General at the time, and they saw everything. They had access to more than what the promotion board had, and so they offered me a active guard reserve position. So I served about the last half of my uh, my 20 years of full-time active federal service as an AGR officer. But they had a policy at that time that once you reach 20 years, you had to go. They'll you either voluntarily retire or they simply take you off active duty and stop paying you. So I did, but we knew they had to change
You
that
either
policy.
you either volunteered or they volunteered you.
Yeah, it was the Godfather kind of proposal, an offer you can't refuse. So the but we knew they had to change that policy. The guy that took my place in my retirement job was able to stay. And 11 years later, he specifically asked me if I wanted to come back. So I did 2 years as a retiree recalled to active duty. That was 2011 to 2013. So I worked a variety of positions uh, in retirement before the retiree recall. After that, I had a job that brought me to Middle Tennessee, which is where I live now, working for a college of nursing, and worked that for about almost 5 years. And then that position went away, and I was thinking about this nonprofit that I wanted to start for some time, actually. And just like, okay, God, you took away the big excuse I was using, which is I had no time to do any of this. I took away one of the excuses. So
Oh,
I started the Price of Freedom Foundation, which is dedicated to telling the complete life stories of those who paid the ultimate price, those who died while serving. And
Yeah, I've
so
heard
that
Joey. I've heard Joseph Joey Jones talk about your nonprofit
okay,
on
very
Fox.
cool. Really,
I think
I
so.
don't think I don't think so
Well,
because we haven't.
maybe he spoke about that subject matter without talking about your nonprofit, but I know he's
Right.
focused on that on Fox. I think streaming or whatever the.
Well, that would be great if I could actually talk with somebody like that because we have suffered from a lack of visibility and publicity. Most of this the funding for this has come out of my own pocket, which is not very deep. We have produced our first book, so we're working with 4 families currently. We're doing research on the other 3. We intend to publish the book and to eventually create a video documentary telling the story because we want to basically serve 2 primary purposes and a tertiary purpose as well. The 2 primary purposes we serve are number one, to collect and preserve for future generations that story, because when somebody passes, the only source that has the complete story is gone. And so we have to then pull the story together from whatever sources are left. And
You're in this case. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm fully aware of it because of the my knowledge of the Holocaust survivors and the problems with
mhm,
that. So
mhm.
I
So it's a situation. I don't think that this is definitely not unique to military. But my emphasis here was that I felt that these, I mean, coming from the background that I did, knowing that when I took my oath of office, that I knew that I could be one of those that gave their life up. And the in terms of the demographics of this is different from general society in that the majority of these deaths happen at a much younger age and in situations that are farther from their roots or their home base, and usually much more suddenly. Training accidents and things like that
It's
occur.
just like the two special what's it called, SEAL teams that died trying to jump on to get on the ship because of what
Right,
believed to have
right.
oil being stolen. It was going through Iran to other places, whatever. So no,
Right.
I understand the
That's why I focused on this population, though I really would like to I'd like to see this succeed, number one, in where we're at, but would like to be able to expand from there to include telling the stories of those who survived their time in service. So all the veterans that are out there, that I'd like to expand this to first responders, so law enforcement, firefighters, et cetera, who die in the line of duty. Basically, anybody who puts their life at risk for the benefit of society at large. And
Well,
honestly, I
I
think
would think
this,
that this, let me see, go back. The part of those who survived and went into problems, I would think an organization like Tunnels to Towers might be willing to work with you.
I have reached out to them, to the Gary Sinise Foundation, to multiple others, but it's like there's they have some very effective gatekeepers. Give them the creds for that. And I just haven't got any traction there. I mean, the closest I got was the vice president of operations for the Gary Sinise Foundation, who I met in person at an event. Sent an email to them. They sent a polite response, but went nowhere from there. So I think it's a great cause. I think it's a cause that is international, actually, too. um and we don't have the resources to produce the videos. We During our research, when we do interviews with the people that knew the fallen, we record those, we film those wherever possible. We do face-to-face meetings so the film quality can be better, but I have used Zoom recordings for this. We do have our first book published, and we are going to be presenting that book to the family involved on the deck of the USS Midway on August 10th. That ship was a ship that he had been assigned to twice during his time in service. And I'm hopeful that we can gain some media attention through that event. But we want to, number one, have that be a time where we honor him and his family and the sacrifice that he made, and the sacrifice, honestly, that they continue to make by his not being around anymore.
Forget, Lenny, was it Lenny Bias? I forgot the name of the basketball player who was drafted by the Celtics, and they think he did cocaine and died accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Red Auerbach, may he rest in peace, who said, no, we didn't just lose our first draft in this year. You don't understand the next 10 years with the impact he would have made on the team
Right.
in one way or another, whether he kept him all those years or if we had players in trade or whatever for him all those years afterwards. So I understand clearly, my uncle, who I'm named after, died in World War II. So
Mm-hmm.
I know the effect it had on my grandparents after he died. It wasn't just
Right.
the time he died, it was the years afterwards and what happened. So
Right.
I fully understand. I'm trying to think if there's a way. I mean, it'll set you up with the college where I attended, which really does a lot with veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And if that might be a project they take on, especially since we have the Holocaust Resource Center, so they might be able to help with the videos
That'd be
to
great.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Bob has my information. Send it to me and let's see what I can do. I can't work on it right now, but I'll
I
definitely,
understand.
definitely do what I can to see what we can do to help your nonprofit out. I know Joey Jones from Fox did something about, in fact, with the family of some people who died where he survived one of the
Hmm.
attacks. So that's maybe why I thought he was involved with your charity. But I would,
Sure.
and in fact, you're in Tennessee. He lives in Georgia.
Okay. That's not
So
far, terribly
he's not
far.
far away. In fact, he just bought a farm.
You know
Is
what
there,
both of you should do is put um, your contact in the chat,
I'll
and then
tell you what,
what happens is
I'll put my information in chat right now. Bob, you're breaking up. Is,
perfect.
is Karen, is Karen driving?
She's driving.
Dennis, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't hear
Okay,
Bob very well. So,
I'm putting my information in chat right now.
okay, great.
In fact, I'm going to put my company information, but that's not the reason I'm doing that.
Okay, I'm going to get my information here too, and I'll put it in the chat for you so you can see that as well. So basically, I've got all my contact information plus our social media
Oh
and
my
our
God.
website and all that.
Oh my God. I'm looking at I don't have,
I have a Word document that has all of this preloaded there because I do a lot of Zoom meeting
yeah.
networking and one-on-ones and the like, and so I just found that it's just much easier to have that all set and ready to just copy and paste. So
I'm going to put this into the meeting I was in earlier with Bob, even though it's a different group,
okay.
just for now, because it's just the two of us. Uh,
Oh, you're back.
Are you
In the middle
back,
of the
Bob?
desert. So yeah,
We're
for,
in the middle of the
for
desert.
a minute or two, we're in the middle of the desert. So can you hear me?
I understand. Yes,
yes.
I can hear you now.
Oh,
It's yeah. I've been There's plenty of little hollows and places here in Tennessee that are still dead zones for cell phones. So I
yeah, yeah.
understand.
We're in the middle of the desert. So
I still think, I mean, we're all old enough to remember when all of this was just unimaginable that we could be in some tiny place way out in the middle of nowhere and be able to be connected like this.
I, I think I spoke about that in the meeting this morning, didn't I, O'Shea?
Yes.
Yeah, I spoke a little bit about that earlier this morning. That you know, and just I don't know if O'Shea knows my daughter worked for the VA for a couple years in Redlands, and she said it's probably one of the hardest jobs she's ever had. She's a psychologist, so
Hmm.
she dealt with uh, a lot of people that were retirees or out of the service, and the amount of
Excuse me. She said that the hardest thing was the vets that are of age to retire that never dealt with being in the
whole
war,
issue. Yeah,
and now their kids are growing, they're retiring, and now what?
Right.
and then the amount of suicides amongst veterans in this country is enormous. I've heard like 25 a day commit
It's
suicide.
sad. It really is. And
It is sad.
I mean, soldier suicide is a subject that we want to be able to address as well, because certainly when we talk about folks who died in service to our nation, we think about those that died in action, in combat, and the kind of action that the SEALs were involved with, in training accidents where we've had multiple helicopters over the last about year and a half that have crashed in training.
Right.
But the folks that that are overlooked even more are those that die in traffic accidents, those that get sick and die. I know that in November I was at a meeting where somebody was discussing the fact that there is an active duty soldier at Fort Campbell, which is close to where I'm at, who was in hospice care because he had a terminal cancer. And so they were, he's not probably not going to make it to June. And of course, soldier suicides, because all that is it's still, even though we're discussing it, it is still a fairly taboo topic because most people really don't know how to talk about it.
That's right.
And but I am participating with another group that is focused on trying to give people resources and to give people a reason to continue to live another day. And one of the things that they were talking about is statistics they found out is that actually the majority of people who commit suicide in the United States are over the age of 65. So it's not the younger generation that, I mean, certainly there are younger people who do, but the majority of them
Right.
tend to be folks that are older. And I don't think the statistics gave reasons why, because a lot of folks don't leave a note or a reason why. But we can surmise some of the reasons being the chronic pain that we have, the loss of a sense of purpose, perhaps the loss of a spouse, of any number of things that uh, give us a disconnection with who we are and why we're here.
Which is one of the reasons why I wanted to work with veterans. And I've
Mhm.
spoken to Bob about this. Our system looks similar to massage chairs at the airport, but it's really more of a sonic massage using sound, light, and vibration, taking your mind and body through a voyage through our most popular sound session is relaxation. We have
Mhm.
other sound sessions as well. We have different levels of meditation and so forth. And it's through brainwave entrainment. So I know I'm speaking to your, because of your background, you're familiar with it, but the example I give, because of our age, I could talk about copy machines.
Yeah.
For the younger people, I don't. For our age, I said when the copy machine stops working, what do? You kick it so that you feel better. You turn it off and on. You may even turn off the plug if you want to really be whatever. But you kick it
Oh,
so you feel better. Then you turn it off and on and hope it forgot I had a problem. For the younger people, I use the example of the computer freezing up. And I said it's either too heavy or too expensive to throw against the wall in frustration. So you turn it off and on again and hope they forgot I had a problem. That's what we're doing with the brain. And the reason, and I told this to Bob earlier, he's been more than
Mhm.
kind. I was asked by a buddy of mine who was head of his reserve unit to go to Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Mhm.
And I put other reservists on. And one reservist who served in the COSC unit, you're familiar with the COSC unit? They're the
I
ones that work
am.
with military officials and their families that have problems. Maybe
No,
not.
I'm not, but
There's
okay.
supposed to be four of them. But anyway, so he was in another unit out of New York. My friend's unit was New Jersey based for the most part. But anyway,
Mhm.
and some came from other areas because they'd moved, whatever. But he asked me if I'd be willing to meet with members from the COSC unit, and they have only 4 locations, and one of them would be a distance away. And I said, I didn't even know what the distance was. I said, sure. I figured, okay, my partner will pay for my hotel room and my sushi and my sushi. So
There you go.
I'm in. Anyway, so he actually served in that unit when he was deployed, and he wrote a letter to them saying that he thought this could be useful, and he's right. And the way it would be useful could be a standalone, but could also be used before a psychological session.
Mhm.
So what happens is if they use something like this before a psychological session, we saw this over at Habit at Covenant House. The session is more the issues are still the same, but the sessions are more substantive and less emotional.
Okay.
So he wrote to the people, and I never heard anything. But let me explain to you why they probably didn't get back to me. It was timing. I
Hmm.
was over at Fort Dix on December 8th of 2019.
Okay.
And what happened in early 2020? COVID.
Right.
So I never got the
Oh,
chance
right.
to work with, I never got the chance to work with military, but what makes us effective is we do not solve the problems that people have. So if they have a problem with smoking and drinking, whatever, what we can do, and I can't put someone on who's either drunk or what's it called? Not tipsy. I forgot when you're not drunk anymore, but you're still, what's the term? I forgot. Hangover. And the reason
Okay.
for it is because if you have those conditions, then the system is more like causing chaos in the brain instead of relief. But the point
Okay.
is that we don't solve those problems. But if we can bring the stress level back 2 or 3 degrees, then the people are not as likely to take action,
Right.
self-destructive action to deal with their problem. So I
I
don't want to
like
make
that
any
idea.
claims. I won't look you
Right.
in the eye and make any claims that we'll solve problems, but we can help them so they won't act that way at that moment and maybe be part of an overall treatment plan, which we could be effective at. And I've been trying to find a way to work with VA for a long time, work with VA hospital. The other areas could help with is because of the pain issue that people have.
Hmm.
It might be able to be useful over at the VA hospitals to be used prior or post a treatment for PT or OT.
Right. Are you familiar with AMSIS, the
No.
Association of Military Surgeons of the United States? AMSIS has been around for well over 100 years. It is basically a professional medical organization that incorporates all branches of the service, and they produce a journal monthly. They have an annual meeting where they have different speakers, etc. The public health service is part of that as well. And the VA, I think, has a tie into it also. But it sounds to me like that might be an organization that you might want to look into. I became a life member back in 1990, I think, and it was money well spent because I keep I keep their journals now, and I think the annual dues are close to what I paid for the lifetime membership back then. But
Again, 34 years later, you know, how many
yeah,
times
exactly.
my parents had a mortgage, and about 20 years later, the amount of taxes was equal to everything else on the
Yeah,
property.
exactly,
So,
exactly.
but would you mind putting
But
that name of the organization in chat? Number
sure,
one,
let
I
me.
appreciate
In fact, I think I'll get their website up too here in just a second. But
it. And meanwhile, you mentioned being in the Navy, or you wanted to be in the Navy. Your
I
dad
wanted to
served
be
in
the
the
Navy. Yes,
right. I said your dad served in the Navy, but let me explain to you
yes.
where I think this could also work in the military. First of all, for those who are out to sea for long periods of time, this could be helpful on the ships. We have a portable version
Okay.
that they could have, so that way if they need some time to just to get themselves back together, they're
Hmm.
homesick, they're whatever, the different issues that they're going through, this may be able to be something they could use on their own time, but be able to use it to help feel better.
I'm thinking about that. I'm also thinking especially for the submariners because they're in even tighter
Yes, but
quarters than that.
I don't know if the ships, you know what, I agree with you, but I had heard that the ships may not be large enough to, because of how limited the spaces are on
Yeah,
submarines.
I have no idea. I'm just saying that this could be a group that I think could be interested in what you're doing, and that I know that they have USAMRID is an organization that does medical research. So I think that this could
You're
be a
speaking my
tie into
language.
their.
You don't know how much I've been trying to do. Well, we've been trying to find. We're not FDA approved, and I'll tell you why.
Mhm.
I promise you, it's not for nefarious reasons. The reason we're not FDA approved is besides the expense of getting an FDA approval, they pigeonhole you in terms of what you can do. Number one.
Right,
Number two, we have no guarantee that if we get approved, that they won't put an educational requirement on someone placing others on the system.
right.
And so we won't go for it. So I promise you it's not nefarious, but what I was hoping we could do is get research in IRB based organizations that have access to IRB publications so that this can go in. And we'd like to go into different areas. One of the areas someone else suggested, I wish I had thought of it to this moment. I heard the suggestion 13 years ago, was for those suffering from phantom pain.
Okay.
Although I know for my partner, phantom pain is due to a nerve ending that's being touched. But the question is, could this be helpful? I don't know. I can't look you in the eye and say it will be. Some of the other
Right.
conditions I can look you in the eye and say, yes, it could help. But on that one, I really can't.
And I think both I think well, AMSIS, I know in their journal is always has they have, usually they try to have research papers published there as well. So I know we have ongoing research on a wide variety of topics that are medical, military medical in nature. And so that's why I'm thinking that this could have a tie in there. I don't have the connections to USAMRIID that I do with AMSIS, but I know that they are specifically research based. So
That's just what I'm looking for.
I'm thinking that that could be a start. I'm hopeful that it could. I haven't been active in AMSIS in years, but like I said, that the website will take you to there. It'll talk about their upcoming meeting. It's usually in the fall, and so that's what 5, 6, 7, 7 months out usually. So it might give you an opportunity to to check it out, maybe possibly go in as a guest and hobnobs, rub shoulders with folks out there.
Well, it's not only that. I would be willing to, if they allow me to bring our system here for people to try gratis. And I'm not, and if they bought, we have a commission schedule, but otherwise my goal is to show them that this has merit that could be used, that we could do some research on.
Right.
Okay.
Bob, you're looking to add it. I mean, now you're back. We can see you. Are you looking to add anything to this? What we've discussed? I don't know if you've heard the discussion we've had the last 5 minutes.
I'm loving it. My wife is listening.
I love your discussion.
Yeah, we
Karen, one of these days we're gonna have to get to meet because I get to, I get to see Bob. I know that you're driving and, I know that you
Yeah, I
chimed
know
in.
he's the designated driver, the DD.
I
Except
understand.
at
So-
night when I'm drinking.
And by the way, in case I don't speak to you again, because I don't always get to see you with Bob, I know that next Saturday night, not this Saturday night, but next Saturday night. So we wish you a happy Purim.
Oh,
thank you.
see what I know. Thanks. I was like,
Well-
where am I going next Saturday night? Hey, I have a question. With all
Yes,
your
ma'am.
talk, you know how they take vets to Washington, D.C.? It's all paid for to see all the monuments and all.
Uh-huh.
Or 2 monuments. My mom's significant other, who's 98, went about 8 years ago. I wonder who funds that for.
People like the Gary Sinise Foundation does that sort of thing. And I think he's one of them. And again, Mr. Schroeder can probably elaborate further than I can on that. Are you familiar with that program that Karen's talking about?
I'm sorry, I wasn't.
Mrs.
I have a
Wasn't
hearing
listening.
defect, so I couldn't understand everything that Karen
Mrs.
was saying.
Friedenthal is saying there's a program that brings vets over to DC for some of the to look at some of the monuments or whatever.
Oh,
And she was
okay.
wondering who funds that. I think it's Gary Sinise Foundation, but you might know better.
Honor Flight is the organization I think is that does that.
Right,
So
right,
basically,
Is that
they will bring veterans from all across the country to DC to and I think that's Honor Flight, HONOR FLIGHT. But I don't know if they are getting support from Gary Sinise Foundation. I think they may. Like I said, I wish that I had more conversations with the folks in the Gary Sinise Foundation because they just moved their headquarters down the road here from me. I mean, they're in Franklin, Tennessee now, which is about an hour and 15 minutes away from my home. So they had been, I think, New York based before. So
I thought they were California based. I didn't realize they were New York based.
no, they're Tennessee based now. So Tennessee's been attracting a lot of businesses and organizations that
Yes. Look,
are
And
looking for a better economic and political environment that aligns with what they're
no,
what they
look,
want to do. So
that and the fact that this is, I mean, the income tax there, not the
yeah,
income tax, the sales tax is about 7%, if I recall, but the income tax is zero, which is
income
why
tax is
people,
zero. Well, combined with state and local, state income tax is about 7, but the locals it's a close to 10% for sales tax, and depends upon the county that you're in, what your
right.
property taxes are like. But it's a relatively low tax area, and I believe that their business taxes are pretty low too. So it
Yeah, but
makes it attractive for business who
well,
are considering relocating.
by the way, he could have just as easy for business relocated, they could have just as readily relocated to Delaware, which has no
Yeah,
income
yeah,
tax.
I understand. Yeah, there's a handful of states that with no income tax, and I will tell you that my decision to be here in Tennessee was based entirely upon that, because when I was got the job with the College of Nursing, they gave me a multi-state territory. They said I could live in any state that anywhere in the territory that I wanted, and Tennessee was the only state that did not have a state income tax. I said, why would I go anywhere else?
May I ask you a different question? How long ago
Yes,
did you
ma'am.
retire from the College School of Nursing?
Well, I didn't retire. They eliminated the positions, and that was about 5 years ago.
My question then, if you don't mind my asking, is
No, that's right.
are you still connected with them, even though you're retired? Do you still
I
have
still
connections
have
over
some
there?
friends that work there. Yes, it's Chamberlain College of Nursing. It's a for-profit school. Its headquarters is outside of Chicago. They had How many campuses did they have? They had a bunch of campuses across the country. I think there were, I forget the number. It was more than 10. In my head, I'm saying it's around 20, but the idea with that was from the campus standpoint, it was for folks that come straight out of high school, that instead of going into a 4-year college where you have dormitories and a summer break, etc., they used more of a community college kind of structure. Go to school year round. You come to the campus, and that's all you have is the educational building, and or buildings, and you get your bachelor's degree in 3 years instead of 4. And if you are a career changer and you have some
Right.
college education behind you, you can complete the nursing components in 2 years. But what I was really hired for was their outreach to military and veterans. They did this for non-military as well, but their online education to advance their degrees from associate's degree to bachelor's degree, master's degree, and then doctorate degrees all online. And they were, I mean, and I was part of that. They were a victim of their own success. It was a question I had asked when I first came on board, which they didn't really answer. But it's like, okay, what happens when you reach a point of saturation and you no longer need the field force? And they didn't want to answer that. So the answer came. They got rid of the field force, but
So
so they were like the second or third largest college of nursing in the country the last time I checked on it. So
the reason I asked you that question is because maybe they might be interested in this sort of thing for the benefit of students. And so just let me give you an example of what I
okay.
used to do at my college
Mm-hmm.
before COVID. I'm considered high
Mm-hmm.
risk, so
Mm-hmm.
I haven't, I mean, I wear a mask still when I go out. And then during COVID, I couldn't wear a mask that many hours because of asthma and allergies. So I stopped doing this. But during the last full week, Stockton was more, it's now called Stockton University, but it's still a commuter school for all intents and purposes. Students come in and they go back and forth, usually for the weekends, that kind of stuff. But what I used
Mm-hmm.
to do is the last full week of classes, I used to bring my sisters in gratis. I would be in front of the library. Again, I'm Stockton alum.
Mm-hmm.
And I would put students, faculty, and staff on gratis for stress and anxiety relief. It was the only time in my life I was ever considered the cool guy.
Well, that sounds interesting. I know that they
And
would
the reason
probably.
it worked so effectively for both for sports, for recovery, but it also worked for those who were burned out from studying or writing papers. Gave me a chance to get their mind clear and then go back to work they had done before with different set of eyes, but it was their own.
Right.
And
Well,
so
that's
that's what made it so effective.
Yeah.
I mean, so I had one student who, some of the students would fall asleep because they were just burned out, and this gave them the chance to really sleep for a little bit and then maybe go back to work too. Look, no two are the same. The other area we're hoping to do research in is autism. If someone we've had success with Asperger's, but there are different spectrums of autism. So I don't want to make it. I can't look you in the eye and say we're going to make claims, but we've had some success with people with autism, but not enough to say with confidence it could help, and love to do
Right.
studies in that area as well.
Well, I think they might possibly be interested in this for their campuses, but
Right.
and I just put in their website as well.
Okay.
It's now a university because they have degree programs in public health.
Right.
So it's not specific to nursing. And who knows? I mean, I know that one of the issues that they have had back 5-6 years ago was they were having challenges with some of the campuses and the rate of dropout of students, and they were trying to do different things to help students to continue on, complete the course and
See, some of
education.
that
So
was due to
this
burnout.
may be I'm not sure what their issues were because I really wasn't. We would visit campuses if we had some kind of event at a military base or a VA hospital in the area, and we'd stop in. But otherwise, it was like we didn't have day-to-day interaction with them. We were mainly doing the online stuff, which was not campus based. So, but
You
yeah, I
guys
think
just gave me,
Go ahead,
you guys
Bob. I'm
just
sorry.
gave me a thought. I've had
Yes.
this incessant cough for months, and months, and it never goes away. And they've never been able to diagnose anything. But I also had asthma as a kid, and I wouldn't be too surprised if this is not an asthmatic condition that I'm experiencing. It's
Mhm.
all interesting. All these. And by the way, Karen should have been a doctor.
I don't think should ever would have. My life.
Yeah, she knows more than the doctors do.
Many of nurses that I have known are in the same kind of situation. Yes.
All right. There are two things I want to mention. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right now, she's a patient advocate.
And I was in public health
Certified.
and a health educator, and I sold
But-
drugs for 3 years.
By the way, Mrs. Friedenthal, you're going to be interested because there's a group. In fact, he was here earlier, Bill Schweber. We're going to be doing another seminar for litigation lawsuits. So for patients who want to sue, if they think they have a case, they will lend money, a non-recourse loan to people who are suing for what they call P&I. Oh crap, I can't think of it. Anyway, so that may be something that some of your patients may qualify for
Right,
funding
it's just-
because they may not be able to go through the suit because of finance, because of issues of financial and so forth. And this may be a way to help some of the
Right.
people be able to follow through. So I'll let you know through Bob when we're having it next, so he can give you the information.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
That's why I mentioned it to you. I thought you would find interesting. To Mr. Schroeder, I'm going to ask you,
Yes.
if you have the connections at this college, I
Yeah.
realize that you're not there
Very
now. I hope that we can speak more about it and see what can happen. By the way, I left out the area code. I left out the 9 in my area code. Let me rewrite that. I did
Okay.
that and I left and I didn't include the capital for in train. So let me just do that right now. So
Okay,
my number
sure, not a problem.
is
I will be happy to go through some of my contacts, and especially I think I can do a search through LinkedIn fairly easily for that, and be happy to make an introduction for anybody who may still be
I want you to
connected with the university. So
besides saying thank you, I just want to make sure you know, and Bob will get a piece of this. We have a
Oh.
commission schedule. So I'm not asking people to do things out of I realize you would do it out of the goodness of your heart, but that's not the intent. But I'm just saying to you, we have so we have a commission schedule. So if they're buying the systems or we're going to use it a certain way and work it out with them.
Mhm.
There will be something in it for both you and on a much smaller scale for Mr. Friedenthal.
Okay. Well, cool. Appreciate that.
Um,
I mean, like
no,
I
it's
said, I mean, it's my
and if, by the way, if you don't want it to go to you directly, but go to your nonprofit instead,
that
we
would
can make it.
I would prefer that personally,
That's
but
fine.
yes, that'd be
That's not
great.
an issue.
So,
Not we'll put it to your nonprofit in your name.
all right, cool. That would be
That's
great.
fine. That's not an issue.
So
That's
yeah,
not an issue at all.
whenever I'm on a call like this, I know Bob knows this about me, but it's like I know we have this cause and I really need a lot of help from all sorts of sources, but I always want to be somebody that can help somebody else. And one of the things I love doing, truly love doing, is connecting people. So that, you know, that hey, I know somebody you should talk to, that sort of thing. So it's, you know, and finances would be way not really even in my mind when I'm thinking
So
about that.
now that you have my email, just everything else, I hope you'll send
Yes.
information, your company to me. The reason I want to get that information, so you know,
Yeah.
is because I want to be able to see if I can do something at Stockton with you or
Okay.
for your organization, working with both the video as well as with the veterans group over
That'd be
there.
great.
Again,
When
I
we
can't make promises, but I can sure
I know,
try.
I understand. And that's wonderful. That's perfect. You know, when we finish with this call, I'll hop on my email and send you just a, you know, hello, this is me. Good to make a
That's fine.
connection and we can go from there. That
Oh, by the
sound
way,
okay?
and Bob Friedenthal knows this. I'm sure that his wife does at this point. The only time I'm not available is I observe the Jewish Sabbath. So sundown
Okay.
Friday until Saturday night, as one of my
Understand.
clients used to say when I did mortgages, I turned into a pumpkin. So,
That's fine. That's fine. I have been blessed
So,
throughout my life because I've moved all over the place. I tell when folks ask me where I'm from, it's like everywhere, really. I was born in California at a Navy hospital, but I have lived in 13 different states, 5 of them multiple times. I've worked in 27 additional states, and I've visited every other state in the Union except for the state of Vermont. But I've been blessed by being able to meet and become, in many cases, friends with people from all sorts of backgrounds. And I have a number of Jewish friends that I love dearly, and so I completely understand and honor that. So
again, some of us are more observant than others, but I'm thinking,
yes,
as you was talking about all the places you've lived, and so I'm starting to think of that. I forgot what the brand is. That irks me that I don't remember the name of the brand, but it's they're playing Johnny Cash's song. I've been everywhere.
been everywhere. Yeah,
I
exactly.
forgot the name of the company that's advertising that that uses that song as a background for their product.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, now that you say that, I do remember that commercial, but I can't remember who.
Right,
See, that's an example of a commercial that almost worked.
right. Well,
It worked because you remember the music, but it didn't work because you don't remember
No,
the product.
I try to make a point of in fact, by the way, so since we're talking about trivia at this point, that's why Life Cereal stopped the commercial. Everybody knew about Mikey, but they forgot it was Life Cereal, that he wouldn't eat anything, but he ate the Life Cereal.
Right, right, right.
So I do make a point of trying to know the product with the song. And right now it didn't hit me. You know what? Tonight when it's Sabbath, it'll hit me.
Yes, exactly.
It'll hit me, but I'm pretty accessible. You can call my cell. I'm pretty accessible
Right.
myself. I don't know if you have it, but I do have a paid Zoom account. I mentioned it to you for 2 reasons. If you don't have one and you need to have a meeting, let me know, and you're welcome to use my Zoom account to help further your cause.
I appreciate it. We do have a paid Zoom account, but
Okay, fine.
you know, it's one of the things that when I first got started, I needed to do this. And I mean, it's not much, and it comes out of my own contributions to the cause, and it's like I use it a lot. Oh, that paid amount definitely is worthwhile because I'm on Zoom not quite daily, but in many cases multiple times a day. So and yeah, I definitely make use of it. The writer who wrote our first book lives in Okinawa. You know, these families are scattered all over the place. So a lot of what we do does have to be done through Zoom. And I'm also I'm willing to travel where I can and when I can afford it. So with this first book, I took a trip to San Diego because there were like 7 or 8 people that lived there that we were able to sit down in front of and
Right.
actually film those interviews. I'm trying to work with the family now on researching one of the other books for a trip down to Florida that we had scheduled, and now that had to be canceled, and we don't have it rescheduled yet. And I've got another one up in Wisconsin that we know we need to do it. It's just okay. Tell me a time, work with me here a little bit. But yes, we definitely plan to travel where we can, but Zoom is a very good and very useful tool, and I appreciate your offer. But yes, we do have that covered.
First of all, let me go back to the AMSIS group. You said,
Yes.
do you have any connections in that group at this point?
Not currently, no. Other
Okay.
than the fact that I'm a life member.
Okay.
I don't have anybody that I know that is currently an active officer or actively with the group. I just think it's a good resource, and I think that their purpose and their reason for being ties in with what you're doing. So
No, I appreciate it. I didn't know if to help get, the other thing is I see a star behind you on your shelf. Is that because you're a Cowboys fan, or is that just for other reasons?
no, that star. Let's see, where are we at?
That blue one right there.
Yes, that one. That is because my wife is the biggest Kiss fan that I have ever met. And so
Okay.
this is something that she got that's of I forget the main singer's name.
Gene
I think
Simmons?
Ace Frehley.
Okay.
So there's a collection of the 4 characters there from the rock group Kiss. So
Yeah,
our home has Kiss paraphernalia everywhere.
I saw an interview with Gene Stanley. He says, you know what? If I didn't have to keep wearing those platform shoes and things like that, then physically he could do concerts still. But when you have all that stuff on at this
It's
point in their
ins
lives, it's just,
it's insane. They're older than me, but they're in their 70s. When they did their end of the road tour, when they basically played in Nashville twice, but
Mhm.
at first they didn't announce the second date. So we went to their first tour. It was Penny's 3rd or 4th or 5th time that she had seen them in concert. It was my first time. Penny and I met much later in life, and so she was in row 9. I was in row 12 from the stage, so real close. And they're known for shooting off these pyrotechnics. And of course,
Yeah,
they're in these costumes and they're in the face makeup. And I tell you, 12 rows out, I was feeling heat and breaking out in sweat. I can't imagine being 7 years older and being up there on stage performing and having that kind of heat right there, right next to you. It's like these guys have some stamina for sure.
yeah. I gotta tell you, it's funny. I have a issue with hearing, so I really don't go to rock concerts because I can't, I have a problem with tendonitis.
Right.
Anyway, I've had it for about 40 years, so I don't go to rock concerts. I'll never forget, I did work again, I grew up in Atlantic City, which may not mean much to you in New Jersey.
I know Atlantic City. Part of my time as a medical recruiter for the Army was I had an office in Philadelphia. I covered Eastern Pennsylvania and all of New Jersey. So Atlantic City was a spot for a lot of medical conventions, and I would
Yes.
go there to cover the convention with my recruiting booth. So,
Okay, well,
so
the reason I mentioned actually right now I'm in Gloucester County and it's
mhm.
called Monroe Township, so I'm exit 40. I'm exit between exit 38 and 41 off the Atlantic City Expressway. So I'm about
Okay.
25 minutes from Center City, Philadelphia, as we speak right now. But
Hmm.
anyway, so I used to get to work at the convention center as a, I don't want to say security, not security, but usher, things like that.
Hmm.
So I hesitated, but I did the Rolling Stones Steel Wheel Tour concert in Atlantic City when they came, and I was there. And it's funny. So I had cotton in my ears a whole bit, went to and worked it. I'll never forget, we went to our synagogue's 50th anniversary event. So you ended up getting two photos. So my wife, now it's my wife, had a photo of us there. And she's just retired, but she worked as a clerk at the post office. And someone said, "Who's that?" And she goes, "My fiance." She goes, "Oh, I already know him." She goes, "How do you know him?" She goes, "He and I worked together as ushers over at Mick Jagger's, the Steel Wheel tour." And my my wife can be a nice person, but the things that she'll say, she doesn't give much thought. And it was like, no
Right.
effing way was her reason. So she called me and said, "Did you go to this concert?" I said, "Yes, I was there." And I told her what happened. But yeah, I'll never forget.
Oh,
But
that's so funny.
that was funny. But and I can't tell. Again, I've never been to a rock concert before. In fact,
Yeah.
someone was asking me. I drive my father-in-law's old. It's a 1989 Ford 150 pickup, so it's a real
Hmm.
small vehicle. So for the last couple of days, early in the week, we had high gusts of wind, so I couldn't
Wow.
travel. So I was describing to someone, I said, "Yeah, when there's a lot of wind like that, I don't travel much because there's no weight on the bed. So the back of the
Right.
truck
Right.
swivels like Elvis's hips." And
I love
you're a
it.
little young. She goes, "You'd be a little young for an Elvis concert." I said, "I didn't say I intended it." I said, "But I said I happen to have seen enough of him to know what he did." So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
That's fun.
yeah,
So
that's how I
yeah,
just.
when I was recruiting there, actually, I lived in New Jersey. I lived in Mount Holly, and I
Okay,
would
so 20 minutes from
my
where I'm
my
at now.
office was in the Federal Building in downtown Philadelphia. I was a small office. We weren't important enough to get the parking spaces in the parking garage, so the Office of the Surgeon General paid for, or I don't know if they paid for it or they reimbursed me. I forget which, but we got parking in the Holiday Inn parking garage, which was 2 blocks away. And every day I got to walk past Ben Franklin's grave from parking garage to my office and back. And I loved it. I absolutely loved the history of that city. And it was just such an honor and a blessing. That's part of the thing that I loved about my time in the service. I got to be lots of different places that many people never get to go to. And I didn't take it for granted. And so many times people who grew up and live in it, I remember this very, very clearly. I was when I was recruiting in Florida, I for a period of about 2 years, I had to cover two offices because they had reassigned an officer in the Miami office and didn't get a replacement. So I was in the Orlando office. I knew pretty much the territory. I was basically had to cover both. So my first visit to that office, I did some prep work to say, okay, I want to, introduce myself to the civilian techs that were there, and I want to take them to lunch. I want to find out a good place that's nearby. So I did some research. At that time, we didn't have the online stuff, so they had a weekly newspaper. I think I arrived the
Right.
night before, picked up a copy of it, and they had a best of Miami edition. So it's like, great. So I found some places that were close by, and I took them to this place. It's fabulous, and they were shocked because they lived there and they didn't even know about the place.
That's always a good. That's always a good thing. Uh, Let me see what I can do to try to help you with your. I
I
mean, not
appreciate
because you
that.
said what you're gonna do. I believe in the cause, and what I'm also
Thank you.
trying to do. I told this to Mr. Freenthal. I used to belong to. I don't attend anymore, but it was called HNP. And one of the things they had on Wednesdays, I think about 12 o'clock, was a veterans group.
Okay.
And I could still visualize some of the people. And then they really screwed it up. Even though there wasn't much attendance, you got to know the people really well. So why they canceled it and moved it with the disability group is beyond me, but they did. And so those who attended Wednesday at 12 o'clock did not come Thursday at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
I wonder why. And so the group dissipated for all intents and purposes. But I know some of the people from that, and I'm going to see if I can try to revive them for this, to see if we can add to the numbers of people who come
That'd be
here. I mean,
great.
first of all,
And
I don't
and
care about numbers. Look,
right.
I got a chance to spend extensive time with you today, and we may be able to help each other further our
Yeah,
causes. So to me, I don't
absolutely.
care. I don't go by numbers.
I'm the same way. It's like, okay, I took this whole thing on as, I mean, because let's face it, so many times in life, people can be blessed with having an idea for a cause or a product or whatever it may be, but we stop ourselves because we say, and in my case, it's what I did for about 2 or 3 years before I started this, and it was like, why isn't anybody else doing this? It's got to be. This can't be a unique idea. I don't know anything. I don't know have any local connections because I was traveling 90% of the time on the road, traveling 8, 9 different states. I got no local connections. I have no experience as a writer that anybody wants to read because I knew how to do military writing, which would put you to sleep in about 5 minutes. I have no
By
experience
the way,
as
you should market that for those who suffer from insomnia.
there we go. I love it. I have no experience doing videography. I had no experience running a nonprofit organization, and so I was using all of those excuses. And then when the job went away, and I was able to draw Social Security earlier than I wanted to, so but it met our needs. I mean, I took about a $5,000 a month cut um, from the pay I was getting there at the college to what my Social Security covered. So it gave me almost no margin, but it met my needs. And so I was basically, okay, God, thank you. You took away that excuse that I was using as the primary one. So let's just go out here and see what I can do. And that's what I mean, it took me 9 months to get together enough people to be on my board of directors because you can't, at least
Are
in
you
Tennessee,
are you a Chodo?
we are 501c3. Yes, we
No,
are.
no, 501(c)(3) is a nonprofit, but the Chodo is a community. Oh no, maybe it's not because it's community housing organization. So
Right. No,
no,
we're not that. But so I mean, I had to have a board of directors before I
right.
could even file any paperwork with anybody. So, it took me about 9 months to do that. And then slowly, little bit by little bit, most of the time it was one-on-one kind of conversations that I, found, and it took about another year before it was a LinkedIn connection that said, hey, you ought to talk with this person, that got our first story. And then another LinkedIn connection that got us connected with the writer, who was a Air Force Academy graduate who's living in Okinawa, who is a criminal investigator for the Air Force, that published 2 prior books, that loved the idea and said, yeah, I'll be willing to do this. No, by the way, I'm not going to ask for any money up front, which is great because I couldn't have afford to give him any money up front. But we're splitting royalties with him from now to perpetuity for that, and hopefully it will eventually pay him a return on that. But it's these one-on-one kind of links,
If
then
not
it's
him, at
worth
least
time.
here's the good news. If not him, at least his descendants, because he'll put it in his estate.
Right,
So
exactly.
that's, I mean, I'm not being flippant in that.
Oh,
Okay.
I know,
Uh,
I know what you're saying, and I agree.
if he thinks of it that way, then it's a blessing from that perspective. Okay, I did this
Yes,
now, and you guys can reap the benefits of it,
right,
10, 20 years from now. So
right, exactly.
this
So I know
this is
we're
really
way
good.
over on time. I don't know what
I
your
thank you
time
so much.
constraints are.
No,
I will I'm so blessed, and thank you, and I will
Dennis, I'm sorry, not Dennis, excuse me. Mr. Friedenthal, thank you very much for putting this together. I can't thank you enough for giving me,
yeah,
I came on last week. This is my second time on. So,
okay.
and then my first time was someone else on.
Right.
So,
And so I mean it was, yeah, I forget what it was that kept me from joining last week, but I know I had oh, I know what it was. I had actually told him that last week my wife and I drove up to Lexington, Kentucky, to a Comic-Con because Barbara Eden was going to be there.
my
And so we got pictures with Barbara Eden, and we got several of her things that Penny has collected over the years, signed by her. And at 92 years old, she's
I know.
amazing, and she is the sweetest person. Literally,
She's as amazing as she was in her character of I Drew Jeannie.
yes, yes,
In fact, if her
absolutely true.
her real name is Barbara Huffman.
Okay, well,
It was her
yeah, that was her, and then her stage name is Barbara Eden. But anyway,
Barbara Eden, right?
so we were driving to Kentucky when this was going on.
Did you visit the Jack Daniels facility while you're out there?
Oh no, well, actually Jack Daniels is down here in Tennessee. I have not
Oh,
actually
sorry.
been to the
I'm not
Jack
sure Jim Beam.
Daniels.
Was it Jack Daniels or Jim Beam?
Jim Beam, I've been to the Jim Beam distillery. In fact, my retiree recall was done at Fort Knox, and so I've been on the Bourbon Trail there with other fellow officers while I was up there. So I've been to Maker's Mark, Jim Beam, Wild Turkey, Four Roses. There's about another 5 or 6 that whose name escapes me, but I haven't done that here down in Tennessee. Yeah, just I always have other stuff going on, but yes, it's fun. It was fun.
It might be a nice event to do for your nonprofit as a fundraiser, something like that.
I think it could be. I think the issue that I typically have is that my followers and supporters are scattered everywhere. I mean, we've got about 13,000 followers on our Facebook group, but I don't have tools that I know of how to use to see where everybody is geographically, physically located. I mean, that if I could say, hey, we have a collection of folks here, it would make sense to do something like that.
Well,
You're right.
the answer is yes. The answer is yes and no. I don't mean to give you a Jewish response. The answer is yes and no because people may fly in to take that kind of
Right.
a event. My friend Ed Cincinnato happens to be a Vietnam vet.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he talked about being on a ship 50 years ago involuntarily.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Military, but the point is that might be so I can set the two of you up to speak and see if we could set up a trip
That'd be
that goes
cool.
through your nonprofit so your nonprofit can benefit
That'd
and
be
make
cool.
something like that.
And there's probably some distilleries that would encourage that too. So I know there's several that have patriotic support that they do. So anyway,
Thank you so much.
I have some
I'll
other
reach out
stuff I
to
got to get
I'll reach out
doing.
to
So
Ed.
I
Can I
will.
I'm going to go. I'm going to reach out to Ed. Do you want
Yes,
me to have him contact you
that
directly
would
or
be
do you want me
great.
to, or you
No,
want me to set up a Zoom meeting?
either way, a Zoom meeting would be fabulous. And I
That's
will.
fine.
I don't know if I have my calendar link in there or not. I should. If it's not in there, I don't.
I
Yikes.
can have him reach out to you
Anyway,
directly.
on my email signature block has my calendar link in it.
That's fine.
So when you get that, you'll have that, and that would be
Thank you
great.
so much for your time. Have a great weekend.
Thank you
And
so
if I don't
much.
speak to you beforehand, have a joyous Easter.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. All right, goodbye.